Logo's POW.
Right, time to have a look at some Sega Superscalers, sort of, for the FM Towns, which is a bit of an unknown home computer from Japan. Right, so first off, Outrun, as you know it, so Turbo Outrun, the least interesting Outrun as far as I know, at least from the arcades anyway. And then we have course map, choose manual or automatic transmission, I'm going to go auto. Some guys turn up, fiddle with the car and bugger off again. Now, I've never been a massive fan of Turbo Outrun. It's fine, but it is not Outrun by any stretch of the imagination. But let's see how this version fares. I mean, generally speaking, the home ports aren't particularly good. Commodore 64 was pretty good at the time, but the 16-bit Amiga ports and ST ports weren't very good. And this, to be honest, so far it's not too bad. It's a little slow. Let's put the start button, speed button on. You've got a boost thing. And the FM Towns does seem to have managed to push sprite scaling around with some degree of fluidity. So it's pretty nice looking. Checkpoint. Flicked suddenly warps to Washington DC from New York because that's the way the world works. But yes, the FM Towns does seem to do a good job of these kinds of games. It was a bit of a wonder computer, not quite as wondrous as the Sharpix 68000, but still interesting anyway. And I'm entirely sure this turbo boost does a great deal. And the POW are after me as well. No branching paths in Outrun, well, Turbo Outrun. Pittsburgh. It's evidently very cold in Pittsburgh. I've never been to Pittsburgh, but this game's to believe it's cold there all the time. I don't know. I think at the end of this stage you have a shop at the end of this stage. No, we're going to Indianapolis, which is perpetually in a sunset. Turbo boost. Oh yes, and I've still outrunning. See what I did there? That Porsche 959, which is my rival car in this. And it's overtaking me. I'm going to lose the girl at the end of this stage, aren't I? Oh, talking to girls, they've turned up to say stage up. Thanks, girls. So we're going to go for a high power engine. These guys are going to fix it up. I hope those are Ferrari registered parts you're using there. Probably not. I'll get to keep girl. No, she's buggered off. Very fickle. I suppose the car technically would be lighter without a passenger. But yeah, so Turbo Outrun as a game still isn't any great shakes. I really want to get around to playing that. Somebody did a super spangly remake of it recently. Really get around to playing that at some point. But as a conversion, the FM Towns version isn't too bad. Probably the best there is outside. Is there a Sharpix 8000 version of this? I can't remember, but it's definitely better than the Amiga and Mega Drive versions, which I suppose were the highest of a low bar at the time. Meanwhile, in St. Louis, I don't know. The police are still after me. This is easier than most versions I've played, that's for sure. It's a lot more forgiving on hitting stuff on the edge of the tracks. I don't think I've actually totaled the car yet. Now we're walking in Memphis. By walking, I mean crashing into everything in sight. But yeah, good version, but not particularly great game. Let's go to something a bit more classic, shall we? Yes, good plan. Let's do that now. Right, after some very confusing high-res pictures of real fighter planes, this is Afterburner. So, play. Now, first thing you notice, the arranged music from one of the SST band CDs, which is nice. The FM Towns being a CD-based machine. Yeah, and again, it's a perfectly serviceable version of Afterburner. It's a bit chunky. Those ground tiles are incredibly large. But and a little bit jerky. Oh, you know, I could put that down to emulation because I am running this under mess. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I think if you were, well, to be honest, coming back off again the 16-bit Amiga versions and the home computer versions, you would have been quite amazed by this at the time. Again, it's not going to hold the candles to the X68000 version. But it's technically all there, including me dying. It's a bit cumbersome. The pad for the FM Towns only has two buttons and a start button. So the two buttons are missiles and shootings, and then the start button is your Afterburner. So it's a bit of a finger juggle if you, well, I'm playing this on an Xbox 360 pad, which I don't think they had it in mind when they designed it, Chewy. Oh shit. I wonder if I get to continue. I do want a list to see if it's got the landing stage on it. A stage that has disappeared from many versions. I need to get the refueling bit. It's nice. Oh, helicopters.
Helicopter, helicopter.
Okay, we're landing stage. Yeah, no, you don't have to do anything on the landing stage. It's just quite a nice little pretty diversion with some crews riding along this motorcycle and then later retcon to be the hang-on bike. But you know, it's fine. Here again, a nice version of Afterburner. Retains most of the thrills and spills of the arcade version, albeit slightly slower. I'm now wondering to myself, is it really worth playing this kind of version these days when you've got access to, you know, Sega Ages on the Saturn, the arcade game on MAME, Afterburner Climax on the 360 or PlayStation 3. Please re-release that, Sega. Yeah. Should we ask the same question of another game now? Yes, let's. Right, on with the scalings. Galaxy Force 2. So, yep, we're just going to fiddle that. Just go with play. And again, you've got some funky arranged music here, but we're going to start with stage 1. Now again, the home versions of this were not great. Oh, that soundtrack's a bit funky, isn't it? Yeah, the 16-bit home computer versions were pretty awful. The Mega Drive version had a woeful frame rate. Master System version was its own game. We just shared the same name. And it wasn't until the Saturn version came along you had a decent version. But then, somewhere sitting in the middle was this version. And so far, the sprite scaling is very impressive. Not as detailed as the arcade, but very impressive nonetheless. I think it's missing a lot of the background details here. I think there's a big sort of like network space station thing going between these asteroids. Oh no, there it is. Fantastic. Just crashed into it. Never mind. And it's automatically setting the speed to full, which is useful because that shield limit there is not a shield limit, it's more of a time limit. As I said before, it's as much of a afterburner style shooting up as it is a checkpoint racer. I'm wondering how you slow down. It's the start button. Okay, that's fine. Auguses. I'm not going to explain auguses again. If you want to know what an organism is? An augus is. Look it up. Yeah, it's starting to getting a bit choppy now. It's underground. But it's interesting that these versions, at least of Afterburner and this, have arranged soundtracks. I didn't really notice on Turbo Outrun because I don't know enough about the game or familiar enough with the music to know if it was arranged or not. But this is most definitely an arrangement of this music I've not heard before. Most interesting. Not much draw distance though. Oh well. And as a result, again, it seems easier than the arcade version. He says crashing into a wall. Oh dear. What's going on here? Doesn't remind me of anything. Oh, I see. It's this the reactor thing at the end. It's just a very long lead up to it. Well, stage 2 was massively impressive in the arcades. It's already missing a bit of detail from the beginning, and again the music's funked up, so that's always nice. Oh, shield's broken. Yeah. Again, solid conversion, which again, this day and age, there's a really nice version of Galaxy Force for the PlayStation 2 you can play, should you go looking for it. But it would have been mind-blowing to see this back in the day. I mean, this was, I think it's 7 tile screen, this was released back not long after the arcade version, if not the same year. Well, at least I think so anyway. The FM Towns was a CD-based console, so maybe maybe that was copyright for the original arcade game, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously way before the Saturn PlayStation generation of machines. I believe before the 3DO, it's got to be somewhere towards the tail end of the 16-bit era. I should have done some research, really, shouldn't I? Never mind. think I'm going to dump this music on my phone so I can listen to it. Such a nice version of the soundtrack. Anyway, should we try another game? Now this next game is probably going to be going backwards to a degree, but hey ho.
出撃命令が下った。攻撃目標は中東砂漠地帯にある軍事基地。その実態は核兵器の研究施設だ。微妙な軍事バランスの上にある中東の国々。支配への野望に燃える。
Now I haven't accidentally booted my Mega CD, but this is Afterburner 3 and I think the Mega CD version was based on this version's. Judging by this is 1992, I think the Mega CD version was 93 maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's essentially the same game and not quite a conversion, but even though it's got elements of super scaling, let me explain as we do some playing. So yeah, there's your control pad, as it is on the FM Towns. Now you're saying G-Loc. Now, G-Loc was a game similar to Afterburner, which you had a time limit to shoot down enemy planes. Then there was a game called Sega Strike Fighter that came out, which, not to be confused with another game called Sega Strike Fighter, which was a sim. Sega Strike Fighter 91, shall we call it, was essentially more true to the Afterburner formula, but pretty much the same game as G-Loc, except your lives, not a time limit. Afterburner 3 is a conversion of Sega Strike Fighter 91. So you've got the G-Loc style gameplay, but lives instead of time. So there we go. And do you know what? There was two games I was going to include. Here's the fourth game. We'll come to the fifth game in a minute. Neither of which doesn't really count as a Sega Super Scaler. I think the planes, at least in the arcade game of G-Loc, were polygon based but also pre-rendered. I don't know. But since this sort of fits in with that, this sort of fits in with that. So, okay. But yeah, it's G-Loc without the time limit, as I said. It's interesting though that this FM Towns version came out first before the Mega CD one, but the Mega CD one obviously is a lot more well known. But it's the same down to the music and the intro as well. In fact, one of the first videos I did back like about 10 years ago, whenever it was a piss take of that intro for Afterburner 3. Yeah, it's not aged well. Again, I'm going to give it kudos for its nice soundtrack. Actually, the soundtrack might be different from the Mega CD one, to come think of it. Oh god, it's been such a long time since I played the Mega CD one. Have you played the Mega CD one? Is it the same soundtrack? Please comment below. And that's it. I really can't be able to play this, so we have a bonus game.
Welcome to bonus day.
Right, this is Chase A Shoot, and I know you're saying it's not Sega, and it's not technically a super scaler, but I didn't know where else to put it, so I wanted to include it until I found the FM Towns version of Afterburner 3. This was going to have to be a shoe-in because I was running out of games. Anyway, so right, so that's all fine. I don't even need to change any of this. Game starts. Hello Nancy, you're speaking Japanese now. I'm very proud of you. Yes, chase after the English sports car. And this is impressively smooth and fast. Really, really quite cool. And I've even remembered to change gears. and you can do the turbo boost. This is really smooth considering the jerk. This really does make the other games I've played in this video look really jerky. This is impressive. Again, I'm going to complain about the 16-bit versions of this. The Amiga version was rubbish. And again, there wasn't a good version until the Saturn came along. There we go. There's Ralph the Idaho Slasher. And again, we've got a nice arranged soundtrack too. Push it more. Oh man. Excellent. Meanwhile, back to Nancy. What have we got, Nancy? I bet it's a yellow Lamborghini. What a surprise. Yeah, surprisingly fast and surprisingly playable. This is really very impressive. Like I say, I had to include it. It's not a Sega game, it's not technically a super scaler either. It's in the same ballpark. It's my video, it's my rules, etc. Oh my god, call up with that crook already. Well, there we go. Anyway, I'll go and take care of this crook. And you can watch the end credits. And don't forget to comment something, please. So there we go, the FM Towns versions of some arcade games. What did you think of them? Comment below.
Here, subscribe or naff off.